Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Million Dollar Media. I'm your host, Max Kellerhalls, and with me today we have...
Terrell Franklin.
And I'm Emily. Woohoo!
And today we're talking about Frankenstein. I have to do the accent. Or I could say Frankenstein and just be really obnoxious.
Right.
This is Guillermo Del Toro's version of Frankenstein and the plethora of various Frankenstein adaptations. This is a direct to Netflix, but was released in theaters for a little bit kind of movie. It's interesting. I know a lot of people are saying this is the most faithful adaptation of the book. It is not.
Wrong. Incorrect. It's great, but no.
I was going to say.
In the sense of like the adaptations versus the book, I think it is.
Interesting.
Outside of like they're the major plot points, which are like obviously different, but like in like outside of just style, just the way like it's told and the way that you kind of like have a little more depth into this like Victor versus the monsters relationship, I think it is more faithful than the other adaptations.
That I agree with. I do think from like a stylistic and tone standpoint, it gets a lot closer to the book than any other adaptation has, even if the plot is different. Yeah. I think that's actually extremely true. Yes.
Yeah, there's no maid character. There's no... His teacher's like in the movie barely. I know that's a very big part of the book.
He speaks. That was my favorite thing. I am so tired of movies where the creature is portrayed as like mute or like low verbal, because that's not how he was in the book.
I was talking about the teacher, like the Frank Victor's teacher in the book is a big character. Sorry.
Yeah.
But still the creature.
Yeah. But also like the creature speaking is like a big deal to me, because I feel like that's something that Universal's version of Frankenstein like took away from the character, and a lot of adaptations have kind of gone with that because it's so iconic, which I get, but I feel like it detracts a lot from what's so interesting about the creature. And I appreciated how much the movie like leaned into that element, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we could kind of do a reverse of what the movie does. You want to talk about the creature first?
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Trey, what do you have to say about the creature?
One is like, it is the craziest thing for me to be like, Jacob Elordi needs to be in an Oscar conversation. Maybe not a winner, but for this portrayal of the creature is by far like my favorite. Just because I think it's because it's sympathetic, and it's kind of like it's not leaning as much into horror as it is leaning into gothic storytelling. So I really enjoyed the creature in this.
This is an interesting like casting choice, because I know that going into the movie, it was originally supposed to be Andrew Garfield was supposed to play the creature. And so knowing that he was basically like hired last minute, and I mean, if you could get a guy who could portray the creature any better, it's this guy. He's super tall, very gaunt, not gaunt, but like fit kind of person. When you see him, you're like, oh, I can see the vision here. I think he just did a fantastic performance as the creature. I just really like you getting to see his, well, not his entire life, but you get to see this arc that he goes on from like quote unquote infancy to, I guess, adulthood in a way, or just like mentally. And I thought that was really interesting, just seeing like how he portrayed every stage of this character, and even the difference between him as this sympathetic person to this rageful monster. And yeah, I thought he did so well. And the only thing that takes me out of the movie, and I blame Threads for this, is someone pointed out that the creature's design looks like various other Guillermo Del Toro creature designs. And it kind of took me out. I was like, oh, damn it. Because now I'm only seeing the prince from Hellboy 2 or the vampire from Blade 2. So I'm like, But it's still a really good design nonetheless. Fair warning, I did watch a behind the scenes like little documentary after watching this film where all the artists behind the film kind of went into the philosophy about everything. And they said like, well, in most versions, they make Frankenstein look like this, like fucked up, and he's got like various different body parts that aren't really matching well. But the philosophy here was like, well, if you're putting your entire life's work into this, you want it to look good. So
right.
I like that philosophy. And I even like the little detail that like, since his scalp is all different people, one bit of hair is blonde.
Yeah.
I love that little detail, and like it's really cool. Like you could see the little things in there, like how one of his eyes kind of reflects back like a cat in a way. Everything regarding like the philosophy going into the design of the creature was really well done. And like, he's in this movie a lot. Like, they're not afraid to show the makeup, and knowing how long it took to put on that stuff, you got to give him credit. Like, holy crap, man. Like, you're dedicated.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything, Emily, you want to say about the creature anymore, or like?
Yeah, so something I really appreciated about this film, and this is going to involve me talking about the book a little bit again, so I apologize, but I love the book so much. There are a couple of scenes that made it into this movie with the creature that don't always make it into Frankenstein adaptations, and I was so happy to see them. Specifically, my favorite scene from the entirety of Frankenstein in the book is the final confrontation between Victor and the monster on his wedding night.
Yes.
Which is tweaked a little bit in the film, but is kept largely the same. Specifically, the whole like "you may be my creator, but I am your master" line, which is just one of those moments that has stuck out in my mind forever in Frankenstein. And I was so excited to see a version of it that was done with the sort of ferocity that I wanted. And I have to commend Elordi on that, because that is not an easy portion of that book to adapt. It takes a lot to really get the emotionality behind that scene right. The sort of combination of anger and like pathos that it requires. And I think without specifically Jacob Elordi there, I don't know how I would have felt about that scene, but he just nailed it. And I was super impressed. And I think that the physicality he brought to the role, like I think a lot about the sequences early on where the creature is sort of in Victor's basement. And just the like body language and behaviors that he had going on, even without a lot of speaking, were so impressive. So just from a performance standpoint, as well as like a craftsmanship perspective, I think everything about the creature just worked so fucking incredibly in this movie. I was unbelievably impressed.
One of my favorite, like just the greatest delivery and timing of a line for me in this movie was like when Victor is like getting ready to burn down the manor because like he's almost getting found out by his brother and Elizabeth, and then he's just like say something like just like give me like make me sympathize with you, and he just keeps saying Victor, and then he begins to walk away and he goes and I'm like, oh my god, it's so simple in concept, but like in actual practice it was like a great delivery of a line to like let you see that this is like more of like a psychological warfare between the two.
Yeah, I love Victor's response of just like, nope, that doesn't count. Like, just to cap it all off of just like, no, that doesn't count. Ah, oh, so good. Like, Victor's so caught up in his ego and like this weird like Freudian, not Freud.
Well, yeah, Freudian. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they would have cast Mia Goth to play both Elizabeth and Victor's mother if they weren't trying to allude to something there.
Yeah, just that weird Freudian dynamic of just like, she's mine. Oh, yeah. I guess then now we could kind of move into Victor. When I heard Oscar Isaac was going to play Victor, I was like, perfect. That is the right person to play this part. Like, just seeing him in so many things. Like, I mean, I know, Emily, you don't like Moon Knight, but
well, okay, to be fair, I didn't not like Moon Knight because of Oscar Isaac. That was not the critical issue there.
I know. I just was like, oh no, I know this dude is gonna bring it when it comes to like Victor, and I was just really excited to see what kind of interpretation they're gonna take, because like for me, like Victor's always the one I'm more interested in, honestly. I know the creature's like really cool and like the mainstay, but like I think for me Victor is like the true monster in the story always. Like, well, yeah. And like my favorite interpretation still is the Peter Cushing Hammer horror film versions. I don't know if any of you've ever seen them, but like it's basically a franchise of films in like the 60s and 70s where they focused on Victor, and each movie was like him going to a different location and creating a different kind of monster depending on what the story told. And I love the idea of like focusing on like this guy who's just obsessed with just perfecting his craft. And I just gotta say, like, Oscar Isaac really just topped it for me. Like the sympathy he gives this version, the weird Freudian angle they play with him, and it's like this is weird. Yeah. And also like the idea of like making him like a rock star, kind of like he just goes up in these places and just like steals the show. Like the first time he like really gets to show off like that he can do this to all those scientists, and he's just like, drop the ball, please. Like, and it works. love that stuff and the creation scene and all that. But like, what did you guys think?
I do like this portrayal of Victor. It just like I'm always a sucker for more like character driven narratives, and I think a little difficult to do, especially when you're adapting a classic.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that this is the perfect casting for someone as like not even tragic, just like almost pitiful as Victor would be as like a character himself. Like I just felt immersed in it. Like I kind of went into it and I'm just like seeing like how I'd feel out this movie, because I like for some people who, especially people who didn't read the book, they are kind of mixed on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go in, I'm like, oh, this is like a nice take on Victor for me. Like it doesn't seem gimmicky. It feels like even if the book was written exactly this way, this is how I would envision it.
No, 100%. And something sort of like underrated, I feel like that I really want to give props to Oscar Isaac for, is I think he played this version of Victor's relationship with Elizabeth really, really well. Mm-hmm. I think that those scenes where it's just Oscar Isaac and Mia Goth bouncing off each other were incredible. Yeah. And that's really difficult to do, partially because the relationship between Elizabeth and Victor has been like the number one subject of controversy around Frankenstein pretty much since its release, right? Like the book was rewritten originally to change the nature of that relationship because it was not received well initially, because Elizabeth was originally Victor's cousin in the original version of the book. Which, I mean, hey, when you look at the text of the book and think about the fact that it has to do with Victor's obsession with a creation that he then hates as soon as it comes out, despite the fact that there was nothing other than his own will telling him to continue, that adds something to that layer of text. Like, it's very intentional. Mary Shelley knew what she was doing. Mm-hmm. But no version of Frankenstein ever has wanted to adapt that part of the text because it's not palatable, which I get, right? I don't agree, but I get it. I think the decision that they made to just like full out change that relationship, give Elizabeth more moments of interacting directly with the creature and making her Victor's brother's fiance as opposed to being as directly engaged in a relationship with Victor, did a lot to add a level of that complexity to that relationship that I really liked. And I think Oscar Isaac brought it for those scenes. I was so impressed. Especially, like I said, considering how touchy that subject matter has historically been surrounding this narrative, I was really impressed how well both Oscar Isaac and Mia Goth played those scenes. That was something that I always look for in Frankenstein adaptations, is how are they going to do the relationship between Victor and Elizabeth? And despite it being radically different from the book, I really liked it. I thought it was good.
I think it is a good way to still kind of give that like uneasy feeling by making Victor's like obsession with Elizabeth still feel like it's crossing a line that like we just don't want to even touch or acknowledge. Mm-hmm. And I think making her his brother's fiance, and then like this kind of in between with the creature as well, is like it just works very well, especially for like the kind of contemporary viewer.
I agree with everything you both are saying. One thing I really appreciate about the movie too is that in general, like I think Mia Goth has kind of been unsung from the stuff I have heard about this movie, because I mean, when you have Victor and the creature being like the two pretty much protagonists of this movie, she kind of gets not a lot of love for this movie. But I just gotta say, I love that they just treated her like an actual character with her own wants, her own wills. Like in most stories that I've seen like this, they would kind of force the relationship between her and Victor together. But she's like, no, I'm getting married to your brother for a reason. Like, it may be a little forced, but I'm still being married to your brother. I'm not in love with you. And I don't know, it's just interesting to see like in this weird dynamic and relationship in this movie that she still has like a say in things. Because usually it's just like, well, you're the main character, so you're going to get the girl. No, that's not the story. This is not that version. And I love that even to that point, like she chooses to kind of be with the monster in the end, because like of everything that you hear from her throughout the movie, with her fascination with insects, her viewpoints on life and death, and then she just meets this creature and you're kind of like, maybe some can see it as a bit rushed because of just how many scenes we really get with him. But I feel like she still sold it. But I just really like that they gave her that agency in this movie, especially from a novel written by a young woman. It's not.
Yeah.
I just thought that was just really cool. And like, I know that Guillermo Del Toro spoke a lot about how he interprets adaptations.
And I use an analogy that may serve. Adapting is like marrying a widow. You respect the late husband's memory, but you gotta get it on.
And I think that just that philosophy makes this movie just work so well. If any of you have anything else to say about the Elizabeth character, or hell, Victor's mom for that matter.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, and I think Del Toro kind of nails how adaptation should be in that sense. And with that, I do also think if we're talking about things that are significantly different from the book, we should probably also move a little bit into spoiler territory and talk about the ending. Yeah. But what I wanted to say is that I think Del Toro struck the right balance, because ultimately, if you want a faithful adaptation of the original Frankenstein novel, my suggestion to you would be to read Frankenstein, because it's there, right? Like, it hasn't gone anywhere. You can read it if you want to. And I think if you're making a new version of it, especially like over 200 years later, I think you gotta change some things, add some artistic license, do something with the story rather than just retelling it point for point. And I think Del Toro found the balance of doing that without, like, desecrating the work in order to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we get into spoilers, though, I just have a couple questions, because this was one thing that, like, it being a Del Toro film, the style is very, very unique and very interesting. Oh, yeah. I kind of want to get your guys' opinions on that style real quick.
I mean, I won't talk too long, but I thought it was a very stylish and impressive film. I think the aesthetic is really striking, and I liked how much the movie uses contrast. There are a lot of scenes towards the like middle endish of the film that have a lot of snow that I thought were color graded in a really cool way. Just in general, it was a very, very stylish, very, very, very Del Toro, like, to its bones. This is some of the most GDT style we've seen on a screen since like The Shape of Water. But I was super impressed by it. I thought that part was really excellent.
I think the biggest thing is like when I'm thinking about like the style of it, I'm also thinking about just like how much they cared about like the set, and how like every single thing, I feel like it hasn't been consistently since like Hollywood in the 60s, to where the entire set feels like it's a part of the film. And I know there's schools of thought about like building the set is better than like using the virtual screens or whatever, but like in the way that like the space also feels like it has character. And the biggest, like the moment that I kind of like pinpoint on is when Victor is like first kind of talking about getting his funding for his project. Like right before like the big like awakening of our creature and a few scenes later, but like the scene to where we're kind of looking at the vascular structure and just everything in that build, like even the camp, like, like a lot of the filmmakers will like try to make sure that like the audience is oriented in the space and we're not breaking 180. And Del Toro did not regard that for good reason, because as we're moving around the space and as like the light is like it feels supernatural with like as we're inside of the space and as the camera's moving during this like hyped up conversation about like, oh my gosh, this is where I should put the rods if I want my creature to be alive. We feel like the space and the color, like you can almost like smell like the inside of this room. And so like that kind of style kind of carries over. I feel like that the beginning prelude sequence not all the way matched that style, and I don't know if that was just kind of me warming up into the movie or not. But
you know what? Sorry, that is an interesting point that you say, especially with that opening sequence. I think that sequence is a bit of a misdirect, or at least it just feels a little bit so separate from everything else in the movie, because like if I could say this movie feels like anything, it definitely feels like a graphic novel version of Frankenstein, especially when it comes down to like the creature's powers, if you will. Like, this is the most souped up version of creature that we've seen, and earlier this year we had Creature Commandos. Especially in that scene, I could totally see what you mean, where it feels different because like he's just tanking bullets. One dude, he punches one dude and he just gets broken like 90 degrees. Like there's no other scene in this movie like that.
bring out the blunderbuss.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even that is like, I don't think that actually existed. If it's fucking awesome, but it's still like
it's like I like the design of it, and like after that point, like especially even when Victor is like in the captain's cabin and like kind of like getting taken care of, there's the style that like we kind of carry through for the rest of the film.
Exactly.
But like that whole beginning sequence, like it threw me off for a little bit.
I appreciate that they were like, look, we're gonna get all of the weird Del Toro violence out of the way. It's not like a Quentin Tarantino movie where it's like a Once Upon a Time where it's like this one movie and then at the very end it's like, boom, we're gonna hit you with all this. No, in this it's like we're gonna hit you right off the bat and then we're gonna kind of show how that is not our creature. Even the way the creature like roars like a lion. Mostly.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, like, I mean, it's a cool scene, I'm not gonna lie, but still, it is like, this doesn't fit everything else in the movie. I don't know, like, even the scene where, like, the wolves attack the creature, I don't know, it's just, like, hard-hitting, like, I mean, he scalps a wolf. It's not the same kind of violence, it's definitely more like, this is just nature here that is attacking him. I don't know, like, yeah, I'm glad you brought up that first scene, because I was definitely, like, kind of, that graphic novel style was, like, a little weird, like,
I just wonder if it's like a production timing thing or if it's like Del Toro's just like, okay, I just need to scratch this itch.
I think it's the itch. I think it's the itch, personally. But yeah, I guess going into like the whole like his powers kind of thing kind of gets into spoilers. So like, I mean, yeah, like we find out like, the creature here has I know he has immortality in the book, but it's like to a point, like you can actually still like, if you do certain things, you can kill him. In this, it's like, no, I think like he's got like Wolverine powers pretty much.
Yeah.
To a point where like he can just hold dynamite and he's fine. Cool visual, but I'm like, all right.
It's a little excessive, but I think it gets across the necessary narrative point, which is that even if he wanted to, the creature like couldn't die. Right? Like, and I think you can do that the way that the book did it. You can do that the way that the film did it. Either way, I think it gets the point across, so I wasn't too mad at it, but it was definitely a little bit cartoonish.
Yeah.
It's the rule of cool. Like, you can get away with this one thing, but I think what helps is that the movie doesn't really, like, focus on, like, how far we can push this.
Yeah.
It more focuses on the tragedy of it all. And, yeah, I think that was I was just really curious, like, but since we are in spoilers, like, is there anything specifically you guys want to talk about?
I would love to talk about the ending, if that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
So I thought it was extraordinarily bold to go with the ending that Del Toro did. Not in a bad way, just in you have to have a lot of confidence to adapt Frankenstein and not only do what Del Toro did with it stylistically, but also completely change the message of the story.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like I said, it was bold, not in a bad way, just in a whoa sort of way. Right, but like that whole final conversation between Victor and the creature, which has no even like close parallel in the book, right? Like that shit didn't happen. But I think it changes the story away from what Shelley was writing about to what to me was clearly what Del Toro was writing about. Right. And you can do that with adaptations. Just because you're telling the same story doesn't always mean that you have to be writing about the same thing. And where Shelley was writing a lot about this sort of dichotomy in splitting the burden of the sort of horror, so to speak, between who was the real monster, the man who built and created this creature with no need to have done so, or the creature who, in anger at his own life, became violent and hateful. Like, which of the two are bigger? Because that was, in the 1800s, that was like a really significant question, especially with the progress of science and industrialization and everything else that was happening during that period of time where Mary Shelley was writing. What Del Toro seems to want to talk about with the way that ending plays out is a lot more about forgiveness and like the sort of, not quite father-son, but like almost, you know? And I think whereas the original ending made sense for what Shelley was writing about, this whole like do something with your life because I didn't forgiveness angle is the only thing that would have made sense for the way that Del Toro was choosing to reinterpret the story. So while I think it was a bold move and super out there, I'm really not too mad at it. I liked it a lot. I was just shocked by how aggressively different it was. Like, I can imagine Mary Shelley sitting in a movie theater like, that's not what I wrote, but okay.
That's just a weird visual. Sorry.
I do think that is. I think that's a great assessment of it. It's, even though Del Toro is an artist, and I love that he like makes his artistry first, it's still a business at the end of the day. And I think part of that dramatic ending is also being more palatable to an audience who may have, like, for an audience who's going in reverse, who's watching this film and then going to the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like, and this may or may not even be the case, to be honest. I just think that, like, from that perspective, I think that's why an ending would be so different tonally in that sense, because like Mary Shelley's ending is like, it just goes along with just tragedy is not the word I'm looking for, but like just the like the density of what happened in this tale. And then I think that just kind of like this I don't know how you call it, like acceptance, or like this kind of like concession is just very different, but I think it's just making it palatable.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I agree. I mean, I think, since the end of the 20th century, we've really seen a downturn in like really aggressively dark endings like Frankenstein originally had. Like the only movies I can really think of that are confident enough to end on a super sour note are like the Smile films. And I think if you're adapting Frankenstein, that's probably not the tone that you want to go for. So I do agree. I think from a palatability perspective, this ending is probably going to land better with 2025 audiences than a straight adaptation of the original ending would.
I'm trying to think what I thought about the ending, because like it's not too far of a reach to, like, because it's in the text, like you can kind of, like with any good art, you can kind of take it at any angle that you want. And I thought it was just really interesting that they did go for this father-son dynamic throughout the whole film, and just with that ending. I mean, even the director kind of said that it was kind of very much like his version of Pinocchio, with that ending too, where it's like, it's funny because like that ending of Pinocchio there is a little darker than probably what the original story was. And in this version of Frankenstein he has is a bit lighter than the original ending. So I think that's kind of funny. I don't know. I feel like this is very much what Del Toro would have wanted to do either way, because like he's always more fascinated by the monsters and the creatures. And I kind of expected an ending like this. I mean, for fuck's sake, he made the fish man get laid. Like,
yeah.
Like, so I kind of expected this kind of ending, this kind of movie from him. And
yeah, and I mean, I think to that end, I think from an artistry perspective, Del Toro is just a lot more sentimental than I think Mary Shelley was. Like,
yeah,
I would say Frankenstein the novel is a horror story, and I don't know that the film leans into that as much, which is not to its detriment. I actually like how much it focuses on the drama more so than the horror stuff. But I think though that difference in tone already makes the ending that Del Toro went for more suited to his version than the original ending would have been, which was suited to a horror story, because that's what Mary Shelley was writing, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I also have to point out to that point, like the scene when he's like cutting up the bodies to like stitch together his version. It has this really upbeat, like score, not upbeat, but like a little fantastical, gentle score to it while he's like cutting people or like cutting cadavers up, which I found like this really weird, like tonal fuckery going on here, because it's like, it's gory, but it's at the same time you get this like damn near Harry Potter style music going on. Besides the ending, is there anything other like spoiler wise you guys want to talk about?
Not necessarily, no, I don't think so.
All right. Well, Trey, I think it's time that we let Emily guide us through her thoughts on the Oscars.
Sure. To start off here, absolutely unquestionably, Frankenstein is going to be nominated for Best Picture. There's pretty much no question about that. Right? Like at this point, it would be an unbelievable change of momentum in the award season for it to not be. So really, when we're talking about Frankenstein at the Oscars, what we're looking for is its path to Best Picture. Which awards is it looking to try and clinch? Which portions of the voting base is it trying to win over? And to me, where Frankenstein is excelling the most, even against other heavy hitters in this category, is going to be in the arts and technology side of the Academy.
Oh, yeah.
I think production design, I think costumes, I think makeup and hairstyling are all places where we're going to see a lot of momentum for Frankenstein. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some pretty solid opponents in the form of Wicked for Good and Avatar Fire and Ash, which are both competing for a lot of those same technical awards. And not to forget about it, but Sinners was also a big blockbuster movie with a lot of tech stuff going on that I could also see making some waves in those categories. So while I think they're competitive, I think Frankenstein is looking to try and be the big fish in that pond. And the only place where I think it's going to go mostly uncontested is production design. Yeah. I don't think any other movie this year is going to beat it in that category.
I would say costume. Yeah. I know, Trey, you sent me something regarding costumes.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about that real quick, because I totally forgot to mention that during the review.
Yeah, it was a post that somebody was comparing Elizabeth's dress when like we first get to see Elizabeth to X-ray type like photo, like photography. Yeah, and imagery. It was so, and just like when I saw that, I'm like, I didn't even know that, and they put it side by side and it looked so ridiculously good. Mm-hmm. And I think this Frankenstein as a film itself, like I think it is a heavy hitter in like the production design, because it seems like it's doing it so naturally. Like when in these Oscar races, you can kind of see, I don't want to call them gimmicks because I don't want to discredit the work that goes into these other films, but you can see, like for instance, with Sinners and the body doubling, like you can kind of see that it's trying to kind of like get those momentum plays within the Oscar race. And so I think just Frankenstein just like so naturally just did it by being itself. So yeah, it's just the production design itself it's so true to itself.
Of the tech categories, I think the one where it's the least likely to take home a win is probably makeup and hairstyling. As fantastic as I think the creature's makeup is, the issue being that Wicked is happening this year, and that is a powerhouse in that category, considering that every single character in that movie, down to the extras, has like 6 hours of hair and makeup done.
Right.
So, I'm not gonna lie. When you said that, I was like, they just painted a girl green. Come on. But then, yeah, you're right. I totally forgot.
One of the other things is because I know that like the Academy doesn't really give a lot of love to the horror genre. It's just like,
yeah,
I know for a fact that like Sinners should also be in the race for makeup too, just because of just like almost like it's gory enough to not over the top. And like I saw behind the scenes of like how like the specific artist like wanted to go for, like I forgot the exact process in which he wanted to do like this kind of like fleshy art, but it was almost like inspired to almost make it look both fleshy and floral, which I just think that like those other categories, I do think makeup is kind of like probably its weakest point in those tech categories, like you said, Emily. Like it's just really difficult to go against like these other films that just decided that 2025 is the year to make extremely technically and just like story, just great films.
Oh yeah. And speaking of that, I do think aside from the tech categories, the sort of like biggest categories, I do think this movie has some momentum, but is going to run into some trouble. Screenplay being one of them. As per usual, adapted screenplay is just a monstrously competitive category this year. Right? Like Frankenstein is competing with Hamnet. It's competing with One Battle After Another. It's competing with so much, and I do feel like it's going to struggle to take home a win in its screenplay, unfortunately. Which, can't win them all. So I'm not too surprised. But if you guys have anything to say about that, and then we can talk about acting, because I think that's also a big one.
Oh, we could talk about acting.
I don't really have anything to say about the screenplay, only in that, like, as adaptations go, it's a good adaptation. But then again, This is also a story that's been told a lot.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't expect it to get that much, like, favor when it comes to that, even though it's a really good script. And I think that the prettiness of the dialogue, if you will, is so well done and, like, damn near like a stage play, like seeing these actors do things. But I feel like that's more testament to the actors being able to pull it off than it is the actual script. So, Emily, if you don't mind taking over acting real quick.
Yes. So, acting is going to be a complicated path. This movie has really 3 categories that it's competing in. They're pushing Oscar Isaac for lead actor, Jacob Elordi for supporting actor, and in some places Mia Goth for supporting actress. Mm-hmm. Of those, as much as I loved her performance, I don't think Mia Goth has a shot probably at even a nomination. Yeah. She was great, but that category is ridiculously competitive, and I think the chances of her getting into it are low, but not zero. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really the acting path is going to be following on from Elordi and Isaac. To me personally, those categories are some of the hardest to step up in, given that supporting actor is being pretty much dominated by both Paul Mescal and Stellan Skarsgård, who are two people I would never want to be competing for an Oscar with, right? Like, lead actor category as well, going up against Leonardo DiCaprio is just almost always a death sentence.
Well,
so
I mean, say that.
Point, there was a time when that wasn't true.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, there was a long time where that was like the joke.
Although in 2025, though?
Yeah, fair.
I don't want to be up against Leo.
I think Leo, in One Battle After Another, did a really great job. But honestly, I could see him not getting this Oscar.
Same.
I think it's possible.
I think Chase Infinity playing across from him did an exceptional job. And I think Leo did such a great job. Like not to discredit Leo at all, but I think Chase Infinity's performance was just like, I don't want to say overshadowed him either. It was just it to me looked and felt better in One Battle After Another. I could see Oscar Isaac in like being a hard hitter in this competition, but like again, like it's just such a nuclear Oscar season.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. And like to say nothing of the fact that we also haven't talked about Timothée Chalamet and Marty Supreme or Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, both of whom are also just super lethal in that category. To be honest with you, if we see Oscar Isaac miss that nomination, I would be sad, but really thoroughly unsurprised.
Okay, but what about Elordi here? Because I know you have some thoughts on like him being supporting actor in general.
Yeah, that's category fraud, and it happens at awards shows. I get that Oscar Isaac was the only one they billed as a lead, but Jacob Elordi is in most of this movie. Billing him as a supporting actor is ridiculous. What are you talking about?
I feel the exact same way of like what they're doing with like with Sinners, because like structurally in that film, both of Michael B. Jordan's characters are not the protagonist.
Yeah.
He's the bigger name in that sense, and I think that's kind of like, I don't think it's as egregious as it is like with Jacob Elordi right now, because I think that his performance is just like I honestly think that this is like an apex so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's funny because honestly, I think if you were to swap this around, Elordi probably would have had a better shot in the lead actor category than Oscar Isaac did, like straight up.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of an unfortunate mechanism of the way that those categories work, that Elordi is going to be put into supporting actor, where I just think the performance is going to struggle more, because again, we got pretty legendary performances from both Paul Mescal and Stellan Skarsgård and Miles Catton this year.
Yes.
Who are all people that I think are going to be in that category and are going to be, as you said, Trey, like nuclear level threats. So it's tough. It's a tough category, but I think Elordi will certainly clinch a nomination. I would be beyond shocked if he wasn't there.
My only thoughts are like, it's going to be tough, but I kind of compare it to like last year with just different, like supporting actress with Margaret Qualley, where she kind of plays co-lead, if you will, in the film. So like it's interesting because like she's in the film most, but she gets more of like the gross and like all the makeup stuff done to her, really. And then well, I guess it's split evenly in that film. I forgot, but like with Jacob Elordi here, he's like caked in makeup. It's a lot of the performance relies a bit on the makeup and like, playing off like the fact that I'm this stitched together person, this dead corpse walking. So I could kind of see them being like, maybe not. But
at a certain point, the plot and the world around the creature is reacting around him. True. At that point, like structurally as a story, that makes you at least a co-protagonist at that point. Yes, you're brought forth by a victor, but like the world is reacting to every decision that you're making up forth until the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me like I feel like you like when you really look at it, like I think it's a little weird to not kind of give him that credit.
Okay.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm also, I haven't gone through and done the math, but just eyeballing it, I'm pretty sure the creature is on screen for longer than Victor is. Like, I'm pretty sure he's just straight up in more of the movie from a mathematical standpoint.
Wait, hold on. I have a real quick question because of the nature of the character. Are we counting every individual body part as well?
I don't think so. I don't, I don't think they're looking at like an arm from a cadaver and being like, fuck, Jacob Elordi is incredible in this movie. Right? Like, I don't think that's how the Oscar voters are.
I mean, that's a very impressive arm. Have you seen that, man? Jesus.
Point being, I do think that acting nominations are in this movie's future, but I'm relatively confident that it will probably just be Elordi for supporting actor, and he probably will not win. That being said, another area where I could see this movie doing very well is Best Director.
Oh, yeah.
I think Del Toro is probably a lock because it's Guillermo Del Toro. He's one of those people like Paul Thomas Anderson where he can just kind of make anything, and chances are he'll probably get nominated if it's high profile enough.
Right. Well, except for Nightmare Alley. That kind of just was like, gone.
He tried. There was effort.
He did.
Yeah.
Let it be known. But yeah. I think we'll see Del Toro in the directing category this year. But again, that's just a tough one. I have my own thoughts on Hamnet. If we do a Hamnet review, you'll get to hear them. But Chloe Zhao is just one of those people where from a stylistic perspective, I'm never super excited to be up against her, right? Like for a movie that I'm rooting for, just because she has such like an eye for aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And the performances that she managed to get out of both Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal were exceptional. I mean, both of them were already exceptional performers, but I think she really drew something super impressive out of them. So from a lot of different dimensions, I do think Chloe Zhao is like a really big competitor in that category. But I think Frankenstein also is. I think Del Toro's like sense for the physicality of the movie, as well as just the way that everything is sort of put together, comes together. All of it, I think, really demonstrates why Guillermo Del Toro is considered the legend that he is. So I would be shocked to see this movie not make it in the directing category. I got nothing to say. My thoughts.
Yeah, you're right.
But if you all have anything else to say before we wrap up, I am happy to hear it.
I feel
it's again, it is just I don't think I've ever witnessed something that's just so like if these movies are spread apart like a year or two apart, they would all be a league of their own. But the league just happened to be in the same year, and so it's like it's just so like everyone who wins, with some exceptions, I think will be like well deserved. It'll just be like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
I
really have nothing else to say when it comes to Oscar stuff because I mean you guys broke it down really well. But I just gotta say I don't know. I think this will be this and Sinners are definitely gonna be my movies that I'm like rooting for this year, especially mostly because I like to see like things that are a bit more like out there and like the horror side of things. So these are like the underdogs in my eye of like I want to see like them really break through the Oscars because like I mean earlier this year like Sinners was just like that movie was like wildfire. Like I guess like the one thing is just like this movie should have been in theaters.
More screens, more widespread.
Yeah.
I think this is a movie I would have killed to watch in theaters. And Netflix, if you have any sense whatsoever, when this gets nominated for Best Picture, you had better rerun this shit.
Oh, definitely.
The double-edged sword of this is that like with whatever's going on with this like WB trade, like this Pong game that's going on in the background, Netflix owns AMC. And there is no reason not, like, even if it is Netflix property, there's no reason not to have theatrical releases for these. But the double-edged sword of that is that K-pop Demon Hunters did so well.
True.
It did so well that its re-release is just like, it's almost reinforcing Netflix to be like, okay, we can make something that's that impactful and put it back in. But then, like, again, it's just like...
But would it have been seen if it just went straight to theaters?
Right.
Yeah, I get it. I think I would have seen this in theaters just because of the name behind it, what story it is, because when you hear Guillermo Del Toro was doing Frankenstein, I'm like, sold. That is the perfect thing for him to do.
And you have to remember, he has enough clout that most people would probably react that way.
Yeah.
If you told the average moviegoer, hey, the guy who did Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth is doing Frankenstein, they'd be like, yeah. That's a movie I'd go see, right? Like,
yep. But yeah, I was just kind of curious on your guys' thoughts on like the theatrical side of things because I know like right now is like people are kind of talking about that with like Wake Up Dead Man. It's just like, come on, we want to see this in theaters. I don't know. I think there's like certain movies, like I feel like with Wake Up Dead Man, that works better for streaming, in my opinion, because it's like you got to really sit with it and pay attention. You don't want any like screaming kids in the background or like really annoying theater goers. But with this, I'm like, I feel like this is easier to follow. Just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that real quick. But I think we could wrap it up there. Thank you all for listening to this review. We're going to have a lot more Oscar stuff coming out in the future. Probably going to be doing another Oscar like retrospect. What was like a recap we did last year?
It was like a talk back, I think is the most appropriate term.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun doing that. We'll definitely try and do that again this year. Trey, you're always invited if you want to do that with us.
I'd love to be part of that.
I know that, especially seeing how well this went, I know I want to have this same us three do the top 10 best and worst of this year, so stay tuned for that. With me today, we had
Terrell Franklin.
Me, Emily.
Mm-hmm. Please like, subscribe, and share. Please follow us on our Patreon. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.